Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is Andrew Murrell. He's a spokesman for the city of St. George folks. They're back, and they want pretty much the same thing, a new city. It's a little bit smaller, about 60 square miles, about 86,000 residents or registered voters. And they're for the same reasons. They want better schools, hopefully a better and more efficient government. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Andrew Murrell. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. First of all, I want to thank you for considering our firm for help in handling your legal matter. We know what we're doing. We've been around for a long time. We have over 60 years combined legal experience as lawyers. I've been practicing over 30 years, Sean over 25, and I have paralegals and legal secretaries who've worked for me for over 27 years. We've handled about every kind of case you can handle, and we've been very good at it. The bottom line is, it is our goal to be your protector when necessary, advisor, negotiator, and to successfully conclude the litigation for you in a way that is very favorable. Knowledge is power, and the folks who know what they're doing empower you. They enable you to make the right kind of decisions that best serves you. And that's our number one goal, frankly. Our number one ministry is to serve you. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm pleased to have on the show for the first time Andrew Murrell. Appreciate you coming in, Andrew. I think the big announcement on the newspaper was we're back. And
that's right.
We're talking about the City of St. George movement. So tell folks, why are St. George people back?
Same reasons we came in the first place.
And are they the same people?
Yes, it's the same people. We've added to our group, and of course the entire unincorporated area of St. George is welcome to be a part of that group. And what happened was the same thing that happened last time. We came for better schools. We were told you can't have it unless you have a city. We started looking at that process, and what'd you find out? We should have a new city. We need a new city. We need transparency. We need better government. So what started as a quest for some community schools that all our kids could go to became a little bit more about better government.
And I remember about 3 years ago doing an interview with Mr. Yates and Hoffpower, and their story was they tried to get their kids into the magnet system, couldn't. When they started kind of pushing the St. George stuff, all of a sudden they got accepted, but that wasn't the way they wanted to get in. And so bottom line is, try to use the legislative process, got shot down twice for the reason you say, you got to be a city according to those folks, which has already been done twice.
That's right, and it was done successfully twice. And if you look at the two cities that we're talking about, Central and Zachary, who ranks number 1 and number 2 in the state?
Amazing.
For education. Who ranks number 62? East Baton Rouge.
It kind of speaks for itself.
It does.
So I guess the question is, in the last 2.5 years, have you folks seen any progress for the city of Baton Rouge in regards to schools or anything else?
Actually, it goes the opposite way. The school performance is getting worse, not better.
And what's the basis for that?
We don't know. Lack of community schools, the inability to have kids go to their own school districts. I don't know how the money's spent, but East Baton Rouge Parish spends more money per student than any parish in the state.
What is our school system in the city now ranked? Do you know?
It's 62 overall. It's over 51% of the schools are D or F rated. And that's the school system, the public school system that we pay for every single day.
Now I know Superintendent Warren Drake, who's a good man, but I know he's trying to kind of move the Titanic sometimes, it feels like. Is he making progress? Because I'm reading that he's saying that they're putting new schools in the St. George area and that kind of stuff.
Unfortunately, he's not making progress. He's not making progress fast enough. The schools are getting worse. That's not us. That's the Department of Education.
Okay.
The schools in South Baton Rouge in particular, there's just not enough to service the students in South Baton Rouge. You shouldn't have to be bused all the way across town to go to school every day. How will your community ever have pride in your school when it's not in your community? And
so is it still correct that the area that would encompass the city of St. George still only has one school?
That is correct.
And when is there projected to be any new schools?
They're projecting, haven't accomplished, they're projecting to build 3 schools in the area in the next decade. And depending on when you read the report or when the report came out, it could be built by 2019 or it could be built by 2029, but it hasn't been built yet.
Okay. All right. All right. So tell me about the folks who are involved. I know I mentioned the two previous gentlemen, and I think Mr. Browning is still involved. Those guys were all volunteers. Are you a volunteer?
That's correct. And it's an organization made up of volunteers and people from a diverse group from all over the area. They came from all different places, and they all want one thing: a better community, community schools, transparent government, and better spent dollars. Their tax dollars want to go to their community.
All right, so we've talked about the schools as a huge motivator, and you want better government. I assume crime is part of the issue. Tell me what it is that y'all plan to do. There's a model city, as I recall.
That's right. We're looking at a privatization of as many services as we're allowed to privatize, as long as it makes sense and it's good government. Now you currently have a system where it's bloated city government that keeps spending. You know, their budget raises $81,000 a day. It's almost doubled since 2003. It's $919 million this year.
Almost $1 billion.
And what do we have to show for that?
I can't believe that.
How's crime doing? You just said it. It's something we're looking at. We've allocated this unincorporated area continues to enjoy the benefit of the sheriff department. We're going to continue that service. Our business.
You need to state that again. Sheriff Sid Gautreaux.
That is correct.
Would be patrolling and policing the area if this passes.
Just like he always has.
The city of St. George.
Just like he always has, and there's earmarked budget dollars to increase spending for the EBR Sheriff's Department so we can get additional services, additional patrols, and take care of the additional burden that's going to be placed on the Sheriff's Department.
Well, I can tell you, I know they need it because Sid has told me for years that they need more manpower and more technology and equipment. So
that's right. And
I'm sure that's music to his ears.
That's right. We've only enjoyed the benefit of the Sheriff's Department the entire time, so this is nothing new for us.
Does Sid publicly support the city? Do you know?
I doubt he would ever be able to come out and do that. Just from the last time around, the public pressure and the name calling and the threats would be overwhelming.
All right, so explain kind of the revenue scenario. As I read something that said the monies that the area that is St. George, would be the city of St. George, pays 2/3 of the city's revenues, but the city only spends, or the parish city government only spends 1/3 of those revenues in the area that sends 2/3 of the money?
That's right. They use the South Baton Rouge dollars, tax dollars, to pay for all their constitutionally provided offices in full. And then we also pay our pro rata share of all the other parish expenses. So we unequivocally have a higher burden than the rest of the parish for these services.
So you know people are going to scream. They're terrified on the other side of this equation that they're going to take all our money and the whole area is going to collapse. Is that, I assume that's what y'all are hearing.
Oh, it's the fear-mongering, that's all they ever say. We're going to destroy the parish just by leaving it. We're not leaving it. We're not breaking away. We're still part of the parish. St. George will still pay for its parish services as it always had. We'll always pay our pro rata share. And the budget hit to a $920 million annual budget is minimum.
And explain that. How is it minimum if you're removing 2/3 of the revenues?
Well, we're also removing 2/3 of those expenses in theory, right? If we're paying our pro rata share and now all of a sudden St. George is responsible to pay our own expenses, those are now expenses that no longer have to be incurred by the city or parish of Baton Rouge. They're now our expenses. So in that
and are those expenses represented by the 1/3 monies that they spend in our area?
That'd be correct.
Okay. All right, so explain to me kind of the way that the monies would be spent, because as I understand it, the police and the sewer and the streets, all of those services are already provided by taxes that are parish-wide, so that's not going to change anything.
That is correct. It's going to remain the same. What we did was we wanted to bring in hard data. We wanted somebody, I'm not just going to tell you what our revenue and what our expenses are going to be. We're going to bring in somebody who's qualified to do it. Carr, Riggs & Ingram is one of the largest municipal accounting firms in the South. That is their job.
Okay.
They looked at the revenue generated in the St. George unincorporated area and projected that to be the revenue for the city of St. George, and then projected our reasonable expenses per year.
And that's after the annexation by the city of what, the Mall of Louisiana and several other big money makers. Let's continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Lines, the City of St. George spokesman, Mr. Murrell, Andrew Murrell. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. First of all, I want to thank you for considering our firm for help in handling your legal matter. We know what we're doing. We've been around for a long time. We have over 60 years combined legal experience as lawyers. I've been practicing over 30 years, Sean over 25, and I have paralegals and legal secretaries who've worked for me for over 27 years. We've handled about every kind of case you can handle, and we've been very good at it. The bottom line is, it is our goal to be your protector when necessary, advisor, negotiator, and to successfully conclude the litigation for you in a way that is very favorable. Knowledge is power, and the folks who know what they're doing empower you. They enable you to make the right kind of decisions that best serves you. And that's our number one goal, frankly. Our number one ministry is to serve you.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Pleased to have on the show for the first time Andrew Murrell. He is the spokesman for the group that is trying to form the city of St. George. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive back in. All right, so you've hired these big dogs to kind of study the proposed plan of government and how much revenues it would generate and how much you're going to need. And as I understand it, ends up showing y'all going to have a surplus. Explain to the folks.
That's right. We used Carr, Riggs & Ingram. It's the top municipal accounting firm in the South. So this is their job, and what they do every day is look at cities and municipalities. And we said, where is our revenue going to come from? How much is it going to be? And what do we spend it on? What is a reasonable amount to spend? And so they determined from the sales taxes, the occupational licenses, and other revenue generated in our unincorporated area, we generate an annual budget of around $58 million. To give you some comparison, the East Baton Rouge Parish Library budget for the year is $56 million.
Interesting.
For the
Say
library.
that again.
The East Baton Rouge Parish Library System budget for last year, $56 million.
And the projected budget for City of St. George would be?
Entire City of St. George, fifth or sixth, depending on how you want to look at it, largest city in Louisiana would be $56 million.
Good Lord.
And
So is this practical?
Yes, of course.
I mean, I know you talked about a model city. Tell me about this.
If you run your government transparently and effectively, it should be possible for everyone. What you don't have is a debt load, a debt service. Baton Rouge is considered the fifth over-leveraged city in the country. We get compared a lot with the city of Chicago. And for those who think our neighbors in New Orleans run their city poorly, they're running it far cheaper than we're running Baton Rouge currently.
So what you're saying is our government, our parish and city government, over decades, both parties, Democrats and Republicans, have loaded up its citizens and residents.
That's right.
With debt that goes on and is financed for decades.
If you look at the pensions, the debt, the bond debt alone, it's hundreds of millions annually, and it's not going to stop. You can look through 2045 when those bonds mature, and you can see hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on just the debt alone.
So explain to me, as I understand it, there are supposed to be negotiations during a transition period if this went forward and was successful. A negotiated split of some of that debt, or the debt or costs related to shared services and assets?
The City of St. George will always pay its pro rata share of parish expenses.
Pro rata based on population?
Based on our population, as we're supposed to. As far as other expenses and assets of the unincorporated area, they'd be transferred to the City of St. George. They're St. George's assets. As for future expenses and debt load, we would pay our portion, but we wouldn't incur any future debt because it's not our debt.
Makes sense.
And we'd have a chance to create a transparent city. If you privatize some of these services, you no longer have to carry the debt for the future pensions, future retirement expenses. You don't have to bear that. Some employer can do that. You can bid out those contracts on an annual or biannual basis, and you can come back with better deals, competitive pricing, and probably better services. If you have people competing to get awarded contracts, chances are they'll be able to bid the price down and provide you better quality of service.
So as I'm understanding this, for every individual who lives in East Baton Rouge Parish in the city of Baton Rouge, our government has basically kind of done what the federal government is and taken out a credit card in our name.
That's right.
And every one of us owes debt on a credit card that the government used to buy some asset or finance some service.
That's right.
All right, and we will still be liable for the debt if the city of St. George becomes successful, but we would not have any future liability for any additional debt.
That's right. We're paying our share, but if the East Baton Rouge Parish continues to govern itself the way it's been governing itself for as far back as I can remember, then that's going to be their problem, not ours.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so tell me about the model city then. I hear about the privatization of a lot of services. What services are we talking about?
We're looking at a 4-employee city.
Can
you imagine that?
No.
4 employees only? You've got a mayor, you've got a city council, but you'd only have to have certain positions,
what are those positions?
To oversee maintenance, for example, a city attorney, and basically their job would be to contract out for those other services.
So they'd be administrators. They're
Exactly
the guys
right.
that go out and get the bids for whatever service are being bid on.
That's right. Oversee it, maintain it, make sure it's being run efficiently and being good stewards of our tax dollars. And then when they determine that bid is up again, they can either rebid the process out, they can remove a bidder if it's not quality work. But essentially you're bringing in private companies to do the
Competition.
work. Think of it this way. If you have a guy mowing the lawn and he mows the lawn in East Baton Rouge Parish, what does he do all year long? His only job is to mow the lawn. He's not going to do anything else. Well, how does that work in December? You got a guy getting paid money not to do much. In our city, the maintenance company would provide the services we need when we need them. And just what we need, no more. And it'd be provided for by contract, and it would have remedies if somebody breaches that contract. Have you ever tried to fire a civil service employee?
So, and that's a big deal. So there would be no civil service or unions that you would have to deal with.
No.
Completely removed from the equation.
That's right. You'd have best example is private maintenance. A company that comes in and provides the maintenance as you need it, not just laying around all day, somebody that's working when they're there.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Tell me about the process. So as I understand it, last time this went down, there was 71 votes short. That was after a good number of folks either had theirs disqualified or withdrew their previous support for the position. Tell me, give me the history of that stuff and tell me what's got to happen this time.
All right, this time we need 25% of the registered voters in the unincorporated area that's subject to the city of St. George.
And so what is that number?
86,000 people and some change.
Okay.
So on March 2nd, we certified the petition with the Secretary of State. That kicked in a new time delay of 10 days for the registrar of voters to look at our map, look at our area, and determine what number is the total registered voters and what number do we need to have signed up.
And that has taken place now.
That is correct. We're past that point. That's why we had the delay from March 2nd to petitions are now out. We're now calling you. We're now setting up our sign-up stations. And so we have to have roughly around 14,000 people. We expect to have thousands more this time around.
And my recall was there was actually a couple of thousand more previous in the first attempt at this, but several thousand were thrown out for whatever reason.
That's correct. I was going to say allegedly earlier with the Registrar of Voters office previously, but yes, that was part of the problem before. Basically, every one of those votes that was counted last time would be a vote that would be subject to be counted again. In other words, all those votes fall in the same area that's being targeted this time.
Now tell me about the area of the city of St. George. As I understand it, that has changed.
That's correct. We shrunk the footprint and it was in...
Now why?
Two different reasons. One, if your area previously didn't sign the petition, that's pretty easy to tell. If that area didn't turn in any signatures, that's an area that did not want to be a part of St. George.
So you're honoring their wishes in essence.
Your wish is our request. So we cut you out at this time. You will have an opportunity in the future. Once you see the success of St. George, you can apply for annexation just like the remaining unincorporated area.
But they've got to be right up adjacent to you.
Just like the same rules for the city of Baton Rouge will apply to the city of St. George.
Makes sense. All right. So you've reduced the size of it. It's gone from, I think it's reduced by 25 square miles, fewer folks. We'll continue this on the next segment. It's Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, and we're talking about the city of St. George. Andrew Murrell. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. First of all, I want to thank you for considering our firm for help in handling your legal matter. We know what we're doing. We've been around for a long time. We have over 60 years combined legal experience as lawyers. I've been practicing over 30 years, Sean over 25, and I have paralegals and legal secretaries who've worked for me for over 27 years. We've handled about every kind of case you can handle, and we've been very good at it. The bottom line is, it is our goal to be your protector when necessary, advisor, negotiator, and to successfully conclude the litigation for you in a way that is very favorable. Knowledge is power, and the folks who know what they're doing empower you. They enable you to make the right kind of decisions that best serves you. And that's our number one goal, frankly. Our number one ministry is to serve you.
Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm very happy to have on the show the first time Andrew Murrell. He is here speaking as the spokesperson for the city of St. George. Let's dive back in. All right, so we start talking about the process of ultimately possibly having the city of St. George formed. You talked about you need 25% of roughly 86,000 registered voters, which is about 14,000 or so folks, sign a petition, okay? Take me to the next step. Once that happens, and if you hit that number that you need to hit, what happens?
That's right. We have 9 months from March 2nd to hit that number. It's a finite period. Once it's done, it's done.
Okay.
During that period of time, the city of Baton Rouge, the parish of East Baton Rouge Parish cannot annex any property this time around.
Can they annex what, about 4 or 5 pieces? Big money generators?
Yeah, but I say pieces is very
generators?
appropriate because they didn't annex houses. They annexed LaBerge. They annexed Walmart. A drainage ditch so they could annex Walmart.
A hospital.
That's right. Only things that gave them money,
And a
nothing
mall.
else. Exactly right. And so after we hit that magic number, the governor's going to call a special election to put it on the ballot. Majority of the votes wins.
Okay, and so all right, so shifting gears then, how is the government formed?
Government at that point, the governor will appoint the mayor and the city council, the initial mayor and city council, which will serve for an interim period until elections can be set to elect our permanent mayor and city council.
And who sets that election? Is that something the governor does, or the Metro Council and the mayor? How does that take place?
At that point, it would be the Metro Council at that point.
Okay, and is this going to be a home rule charter kind of government, or is this a different type of government? I think that's what we have in East Baton Rouge Parish in the city of Baton Rouge right now.
At this point, it'll be a different kind of government.
Okay, and it's modeled again after a city, extraordinarily successful city, as I understand it, somewhere in Georgia?
That's correct. In Georgia, they had many of the same problems that we're currently having with the incorporation effort and the opposition. They were successful. They wound up generating a surplus in their first year of existence. They've become very popular with the surrounding area wanting to be annexed in, and they operate, their mission statement is to operate their government efficiently, small, and at a surplus every single year.
So you indicated previously there was roughly going to be a $25 million surplus kind of projected by this hot dog firm that analyzes this stuff. If that keeps going on, I assume the tax rate that folks would be subjected to potentially goes down?
Well, now you have a lot of options. You have options, period, which is something we currently don't have. You have options to improve your roads. You have options to reinvest in your schools. You have options to, if you want to have a pet project, you'd have options to do some city improvement projects at that point. Or better yet, how about a rainy day fund for a little while? So when you have an economic downturn, instead of these crushing austerity measures you have to take last second, you have a way to bridge that gap until the economy can recover. Or how about this, a storm or some storm damage?
Right.
You might have a budget to help some of your citizens out.
So, and when you say you will have options, you mean the people, because you're going to have, it sounds like a small government apparatus who gets all the phone calls and deals with, I mean, they're very much accountable.
That's right. Back to community government, community schools, a community feeling where you're involved in the process of you live in this area, your tax dollars stay in this area, you enjoy the benefit of those tax dollars, and that's something that the people in the city of St. George have not enjoyed ever.
Now, I may be wrong, but I want to say that I've been reading that Baton Rouge and currently the parish is among the highest taxed in the nation.
That's right. When I say we're compared a lot to the city of Chicago, that's not a good thing. We're compared for being high debt service. We're compared for over-leveraged. We're compared for high crime rates. We're 50th and 49th, 50th in education, depending on what year it is in the country. there's not very many positives right now.
And so, again, there's a possibility rates would go down, and I assume development, because most of the undeveloped land is in the parish, the unincorporated part of the parish.
Well, what's happened everywhere else in our surrounding area when they've gotten good public schools that everyone can go to? What's
Population
happened?
goes up, people move there. And that's part of the motivation for the city of St. George, as I recall, seeing all these families who want good schools, who can't get their kids into them, saying, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere where I can guarantee my child's going to have a chance at life instead of being condemned to the school system here.
That's right. I love my neighbors. I don't want to leave my area. But what opportunities are you giving me here? Where else can I go? And do I want my kids to grow up in the same kind of area? If you're looking at a bond maturing in 2045, it's going to cost a couple of $100 million. Who's going to eat that cost?
Yep.
My children.
And the bottom line is, and I'm a pure capitalist in a lot of ways, that the city of St. George, if it is successful, creates competition for the city of Baton Rouge.
That's right.
And the city of Baton Rouge will have to compete, and hopefully if they can somehow work together to make the whole area better and stronger.
That's right. Instead of looking at what's going to hurt me and how this is going to hurt me, maybe they should look at what can I do better.
How can we join partnership?
How do I spend my dollars a little more wisely in the future?
So let's talk about the petition, okay? So folks get something in the mail, or you guys call them up. Describe this process
It's
to
a
me.
multi-phase campaign. Phase one was if you signed the petition last time, we sent you a petition this time. It came in your mailbox probably about 2 weeks ago. If you have been one of the few that hasn't sent it back yet, please stick that back in the mail. It's got a self-addressed stamped envelope on it. You sign that petition. If your spouse is also on it, they sign that petition. Spouses can witness each other's signatures.
So the wife can witness the signature of her
Absolutely.
husband and vice versa.
Absolutely.
All right.
Then if you'd be so kind to take it to your neighbors, you can have them sign it and do it too. Stick it back in the mail, get it back to us. That's phase one.
And so one petition can be signed by
It's got 10
scores
blanks.
of people.
Exactly
Okay.
right. It's got 10 blanks on it. If you get to a point where you'd like to have some more, or if you didn't get one in the mail the first time, or if you just want to sign it this time because you've seen the show and you're looking for something better, stgeorgelouisiana.com. You just got to sign up. One of our organizers will give you a call and bring it to you.
Well, and my recall from the last event was that a lot of businesses participated in this. Is there an outreach to the businesses to participate?
They can also go to St. George, Louisiana if they want to have a sign-up station, if they want to have petitions at their business. We'll be more than happy to talk to them about that process. We do try to warn them that the opposition can be fairly nasty and unpleasant, and that's something they should prepare for as well. No one should go into this blind, and we try to give them every piece of information we have. We'd love to have businesses participate because.
But what you're telling me is there's been examples in the past then where someone who supported this was penalized, or by what? The population or the government?
We've had a business that called and said they kept getting nasty phone calls. People would show up and say nasty things to them and run business off. And that's
Interesting.
unfortunate.
All right. All right, so folks sign the petition and they send it in. You've got 9 months.
9 months. Phase two, door-to-door campaign. We are allowed to solicit even in non-solicitation neighborhoods. It's provided for in the East Baton Rouge Parish ordinances. It's political communication and the First Amendment. We're very friendly and very nice about it. We're just going to knock on the door, ask if you want to sign the petition. If you have questions, great chance to get somebody who knows about it to answer those questions. Not just rumor and innuendo. And at that point, if you say no, we just have a nice day.
The bottom line is you can do a search on Google, City of St. George.
stgeorgelouisiana.com. You can sign up. You get all the info and all the frequently asked questions.
Andrew, thank you. Appreciate it. This
Thanks
is
for
Locke
having me.
Meredith with Legal Lines talking about the City of St. George with Andrew Murrell. Thank you for being with us.